Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Atoma Eji. I'm so excited for this new episode. One thing I wanted to do today is actually cover how love can conquer a lot of the systemic racism and injustices that we see in the world. And we have really, to me, a hero in the faith that I'm just getting to know, which is Cornelia Hainer, who's from Switzerland. She's actually joining us from Cambodia, so it's about 7 p.m. there. So we're going to go ahead and get started, but she's actually the director or the head of the hospital, the Sonia Kil Memorial Hospital, got to get that out, in Cambodia, and she's going to share a few things with us. If you like this episode and you're excited about what we can do to make a difference in this world with all these systemic racism and injustices, this episode is for you. Well, let's go ahead and jump right in. Again, if you like this episode, please consider subscribing and clicking like. So to start out, Ms. Cornelia, can you share with us how you became a disciple and what brought you into God's kingdom?
Yeah, I would like to start fairly early in my life. I think already as in school and as teenager, I realized how much there is injustice in life. And I realized how I was brought up in an extremely rich country, a very blessed, good healthcare system, good schooling, and but there were many poor kids in my school, in the public school, and I realized there is rich and poor, and I think my first encounter with somebody outside my culture was Stella, and she was a girl from Biafra who was in a refugee camp in this part of Nigeria, and she was adopted by a Swiss family, and we became friends. And we were really best friends, and I saw how she grew up, how I grew up, and it really made me think I want to make a difference in life. And I always believed in God and believed that God had really chosen me or put me in such a country that was really blessed to make a difference and to give back to others who are less fortunate. And so when I finished high school, I went into medicine. And my dream was to go to Africa and build a hospital and train people, help the poor, and change the world. And so I believed in God, but it didn't really have a big impact in my life. And then over time, when I was training, I became a general surgeon in Switzerland. Kind of faith faded away a little bit. And I went back to Africa in '95 in Rwanda after the genocide. And so I got really depressed, and I almost lost my faith. I didn't know anymore what was real, what was Christianity all about, because I also saw many who had been part of Christian churches were actually killing the Tutsis when the genocide broke out. So I was thinking, well, what is real? Is Christianity real? And so when I came back, I had a downturn and got really depressed and didn't know anymore what to do with my life. And it was kind of just out of kind of deep depression, but I just had a small prayer. God, if you are real, please bring me to Christians who really put the Bible into practice. Mm-hmm. And so it was a couple of weeks later, I went to town to Zurich to do some shopping in the evening. And then suddenly I get stopped by a woman, and she invites me to church. And I was thinking, wow. Who is inviting you to church? Or who is even approaching you for any faith in Switzerland? Must be a cult, Jehovah's Witnesses, whatever. And I already wanted to pass by, and then I suddenly realized, well, wait a moment, we have been praying. So maybe that's God's answer. So I stopped, And we started to talk, and she shared her faith with me. And so I said, okay. So she gave me an invitation card, said, do you come to church next Sunday? I said, oh, sure, I'm coming. And then she said, well, can I have your phone number? And I was thinking first, well, I've never given my phone number to anybody. So I trust her, but I gave her my phone number and we parted ways. And of course, as it came, I was really busy. I had some night shifts. And so Sunday morning, I'm kind of, oh no, I just don't want to get up. And so I can go to church another time. So I slept in. But as she had my phone number, she was really persevering. And she called me up and said, well, what happened? So, oh, I'm so sorry. I couldn't get up. I was too tired. And so she says, oh, are you coming to church next Sunday? I said, sure. Can I wake you up? I said, sure. Can I pick you up at the train station? So she really covered all the bases. I had no excuses. So she woke me up. I took the train. She picked me up with another sister. We walked to church. And so here I sat in the very first church service, surrounded by disciples. And I was just really impacted by what I saw. It was first the preaching, because it was really the Bible and how to put the Bible into practice. And then afterwards there was fellowship and a lunch, a potluck. And I realized here there were little groups and somebody was crying and people were comforting her and others were just sharing their life, and it was real. And so I was thinking, wow, I think that's really the place God has called me to be. So I just came to church a couple of times. They invited me for birthday parties, for playing pool. I was thinking that's really cool, because I think these people are just different from whatever legalistic groups I had seen. So finally I asked a lady who had invited me to church, well, how can I be part of this church? Well, you know what, how about we study the Bible and we see a little bit where your convictions are at. So I was thinking for myself, pretty prideful, well, I know everything. I have read the Bible 3 times and I will teach her, kind of like that. Right? So we started studying the Bible, and then it was, well, pretty soon, as early as the discipleship study, that I realized I was not really putting the Bible into practice. And what I had done is, okay, I was just a little bit religious, but it had no impact in my life. And so I just continued studying the Bible, because I knew that's what God really wants me to do. And that was January 97, and then I got baptized in March 97. But the biggest challenge till baptism was that when we counted the costs, they challenged me to give up my dream to go back to Africa. Said, well, you know, we really have to build up the church, God's kingdom in Switzerland, in Europe, and yeah, you should stay in Switzerland. And so it was really hard for me to give that up, because that had been really a part of my life. I was wrestling and praying, and then finally I just gave it up to God and said, God, I had this dream. If it's not your dream for me, okay, I just give it up. But if it's your dream, I believe you give it back somehow. Just have to trust. And so, yeah, I gave it up, and then later on I was baptized. And so I didn't really think at all anymore about my dream. And so that's how I became a disciple.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So I know obviously that you're the head of the Sonia Kill Memorial Hospital. Can you share with us who Sonia Kill is, and also how we got partnered with the Sonia Kill Foundation?
Well, Sonia Kill actually was the daughter of the Kill family in Germany, close to Cologne. She was 19 or 20 years old when she died in a traffic accident in Germany, so more than 20 years ago. And it was very, very tragic for the family. Family was very wealthy, her father a successful businessman, and so they started a foundation in Germany the Sonja Kiel Foundation Germany and started projects for children. So we had the project in Germany. They supported a project in Nepal to help get out young women out of prostitution and give them training and rehabilitation. And they also supported a school in Sao Paulo. And then I think it was around 2004, 2005, a friend brought them to Cambodia and said, well, you know, I think Cambodia really needs a children's hospital. And they linked up with a Cambodian who worked for the Ministry of Health. And his dream was to start a children's hospital in the south of Cambodia. And so that's how the partnership started. And they got the land from the Cambodian government and started to build a hospital in 2005.
Okay.
And it was finished in 2009, and that's when the Sonja Kiel Foundation Germany was looking for a partner to manage the hospital because they didn't have experience in healthcare. And they looked at different organizations who were mainly working with children, but they didn't think it was a good fit. And then it was really God bringing them together with the Gempels.
Mm-hmm.
And up in Phnom Penh, the Sihanouk Hospital Center of Hope just had a big celebration. I think it was the 1 million patient consultation celebration. That was presided by the king. And so the Gempels stayed at the same hotel. And so they started to talk and they said, well, we have a hospital. We don't know how we can get it started. And so that's how the Gempels and also the director of the Sihanouk Hospital Center of Hope got invited to Kampot, to the south, to see the hospital. And when they told me, well, you speak German and you are Swiss, we are sure they trust you. So can you come with us? And so that's how I tagged along in 2009 and just looking at the whole compound. It's a fascinating compound, many buildings, it's green around, they have beautiful scenery. And so I was thinking, wow, I would really like to help start this hospital, but I don't know how and who has the money.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a lot of discussion going on, and then finally, November 2011, they came to us and just said, let us start with something. And so we started with a very small outpatient department in April 2012. And then just step by step, really slowly, we built it. And I always said, I call it Joshua mission, because Joshua was kind of conquering the land, the promised land, building by building.
Right.
So, or town by town. And so I said, okay, we are conquering the hospital building by building. So God really blessed it and gave us resources. And we create revenue. So rich people, they pay full price. The very poor pay nothing. And in between we have sliding scales. And so our goal was always to become sustainable, financially sustainable,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't have to look for money and raise money all the time for operating costs. And so if we raise money, it's more for equipment, maybe an additional building, some really special project or a special training program. And so God really blessed it, and we became sustainable in October 2018.
Wow, that's awesome. Little mustard seed, and it's grown and grown and grown.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible, yeah.
So one of the things that we're going through, as I'm sure you're very well aware in the United States, is addressing some of the injustices that have occurred many years ago. We're doing our best to try to rectify them. You know, we'll see how far we go. But I wanted to find out if you can share a little bit about Cambodia and obviously the Khmer Rouge and some of the things that happened in 1975, 1978, the genocide that occurred. Because I feel like what you're doing is a way to help improve and rectify some of the atrocious things that have happened over time. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the time, I think that was, yeah, one of the most cruel times, I would say, in the last 50 years of mankind. And as you said before we started recording, I think around 2 million people were killed, and especially the educated people, the kind of high-ranking people, and it was almost like close to a culture revolution, where the farmers who had been oppressed, who had been very poor, were incited to follow the revolution, which was more Maoist, communist, and so it was extremely devastating for the whole country, for this generation, but also what we see for the next generations, because the survivors, they were so traumatized, mentally, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, that it was really, really difficult for them to bring up their children in a healthy, emotionally healthy environment. And so also the children suffer, the grandchildren. I have seen families, 4 generations as my patients, and they all had severe depression and anxiety, and even the youngest, the 4th generation, extreme anxiety. And so that certainly, that's one consequence. Another consequence is really that the educated people were almost wiped out. So only a few doctors, only a few teachers were left, only a few nurses and midwives. And so just rebuilding the country, because the country was kind of thrown back into almost Stone Age or Middle Age. It's still, things have improved a lot. The schools have improved, the medical schools have improved, but there's still a really long way to go. And so, yeah, rebuilding just needs generations, and especially the emotional rebuilding mentally, that just takes incredible time.
Well, thanks again so much for your service. I did want to find out, so right now, I was just going through your annual report for 2019. It looks like you have been able to serve almost 21,000 patients. You were able to complete 479 surgical procedures and deliver a little bit over 1,500 babies. So can you share about, besides the items noted here, some of the successes that you've seen over time, and maybe any personal stories that kind of warm your heart serving with the Cambodian people?
I think what I have learned is that Cambodian people are amazing. They are not only survivors, but they are strong. And so if they get a chance, if you treat them with love, with respect, compassion, it's incredible what is possible. And I remember way back when I came in 99, the people at the Sinok Hospital Center of Hope, and I just treasure these people. And many of them are now highly trained medical professionals I respect, I call up to get advice, and we have friendships, and we want to do the same. We want to serve the poor, we want to train people, we want to improve healthcare together. And then I see the same at the Sonic Hill Memorial Hospital. When we started in April 2012, we had a couple of young doctors and young nurses, and we didn't really know how to do it. And so we started to train. I sometimes had to train in specialties I didn't really practice anymore. So it was opening books and studying together with them. And when I look now, 7 of our chiefs of departments and deputy chiefs are from this time for the first 2 years, and they are now competently leading departments. And it's not just the knowledge and the skill, but it's especially the emotional competence they have. They really have a heart for the poor. They have a heart, they want to improve people's lives, people's health. So they are eager to go the extra mile. And I think what inspired me most last year was we had very, very stressful situations, especially during public holidays. Public holidays, kind of, it's just the country shuts down, and the public sector also shuts down a lot. And so we got a lot of severe emergencies, and doctors and nurses and midwives and lab techs, we were all just working together. And sometimes we needed blood. And so we had a messenger group on Facebook, just sending out messages, hey, we need blood, we need this, we need that. And then one anesthesiologist, he writes a message, oh, today I'm off, I'm going to my hometown, but my blood stays at the Sonic Hill Memorial Hospital. So before leaving to go on holidays and spend time with his family and partying for the big public holiday, he went to the lab and donated blood. And another person, an administrative person, came in on her day off during a public holiday as well, because she found out that she had exactly the right blood type for a lady who was bleeding while we did a cesarean section. And so she just came to donate blood. And it really inspired me how the staff was eager to serve, eager to give, and not saying, well, wait a moment, I'm off, why should I come? And it's not my family, it's not my friend. But they said, no, these people, they need my help, they need me to make an extra effort. I'm even eager to give my blood, which is often difficult to get in Cambodia. And so it just inspired me to see how eager my staff is just to give and help.
I love their heart, and I love your heart. I think you guys are working in tandem to do some great things in Cambodia. I wanted to switch gears a little bit and discuss the death of really the murder of George Floyd here in the United States. And I just wanted to find out what has been the impact to you, the church in Cambodia, and perhaps a community. What has been the impact over there?
I think in Cambodia, I didn't really get a lot of comments from Cambodians. For me, it impacted me because I get angry when I see social injustice, and that people are treated differently just because we have a different color or a different nationality. And I read a lot about just historical and what had been going on in the last 50 years in the States, just to understand deeply, and also to understand, because some people said, oh, okay, well, these people should just really understand and move on. And I said, no, you can't, because if you have been exposed, or generations in your family have been exposed to discrimination, to hatred, and just because you have a different color of skin, it's not that easy to overcome. And it takes much more to help overcome and to help forgive, and not just say, oh no, we have to move on. And so I think what made me also angry is to see some of reactions on YouTube or Facebook where it just said, well, why are they even making a fuss out of it? And I was saying, well, no, we have to realize what has been going on in the States, but also in other countries, or how the colonialism has destroyed. And I was in Africa, and well, I have seen the genocide in Rwanda, and it was a consequence of the colonial time, and just seeing how much is destroyed in Africa and in the US and all over the world, because we discriminate, and there's so much social injustice. So for me,
Go ahead.
yeah.
What are some of the books that you have read, if you can recall, that have really helped inform your thinking on specifically on the U.S., I suppose? You said in the last 50 years you looked at some books covering that span.
It was YouTube videos.
Okay.
There were YouTube videos even about Tulsa. I didn't know what Tulsa stood for.
Oh, Tulsa?
Tulsa, yeah. And so
Okay.
I read about Tulsa and the massacre. And then it just made me angry that a president is choosing this town for his campaign. So I don't want to say anything more about your president, but it just showed me the lack of empathy. Sure. And the lack of acknowledgement what really happened, not just with George Floyd, but with so many others, and families being ripped apart, ripped out of Africa, being shipped in wherever, and just thinking, how could we even do that? How could people do that, right? But it still happens, just in another way.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, but I wanted to just ask you if you have some words to share with our viewers in reference to a lot of the structural racism. I think a lot of people can be, pretty down right now, thinking there's nothing they can do. And I think you provide an incredible example just of, showing love to those that you see going through injustice. So is there any encouragement you can provide to our viewers to inspire them to, keep loving and keep taking the next step, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I think I start with my most favorite book, and that's the Bible. I'm just studying through Matthew, and I'm following a podcast, and I see the Gospel of Matthew from a very different perspective, and how much Jesus was really talking about justice, injustice, marginalized people, and how he called the disciples to reach out to the marginalized people and to give them hope, to help them to heal. And I think seeing what especially your country is going through right now, I think that's the only answer we have as disciples, that we say, what, we stand up, not we stand up with weapons, but we stand up with the word of God, with the love of Christ, which he had, reaching out to the outsiders of his culture, and that we say, this is what we have to do, and all of us, and whatever we can do to help people to heal, to help people to forgive and to work together. And I think especially the churches, that we are united in the churches. And I think that's what Jesus was praying about in the Gospel of John, right? Well, that we are united, and it doesn't matter how we look like, where we come from, what is our skin color, are we rich or poor? It doesn't matter to God. It matters that we love each other, we love our neighbors as ourselves. And then we go to the question of the Pharisees, well, who is my neighbor? And then he gives them the parable of Samaritan. And so I think it's the same for us, right? You say, well, who is our neighbor? Well, neighbor is next door. Well, maybe, this neighbor is from a marginalized ethnic group and is suffering, needs to heal, and how can I reach out, and how can I help?
Mm-hmm. I have one last question. How do you keep your soft heart? I know you've been a disciple a number of years. how do you maintain a soft heart after, with all the things that you see and different challenges and just life in general? How do you try to keep your heart soft?
I think it's sometimes I look at my Cambodian staff, how they take care of people, and I realize, well, oh, wait a moment, they have an extremely soft heart where I am. And then of course I go back and look at how Jesus always had a soft heart. And so I take Jesus' example, and then I take the example of my staff, of my friends, and sometimes I think I still have so much to learn. And yeah, I'm still not as compassionate, as kind, as loving, as generous as God wants me to be. And so it's my prayer. I pray every day especially when I drive to the hospital, I just pray, God, help me to be compassionate, help me to have a soft heart, help me to see the needs, help me to see how I can be a light just today and glorify God. And I think that helps me just praying about it, praying to give me a soft heart.
Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, but I just wanted to say thank you so much just for your service for all these years in Cambodia, just working with the staff, raising up a new generation of doctors and medical assistants, and just being a light really to South Cambodia and all of Cambodia with the free service that you provide and obviously pay for those who are able. So just wanted to share our love to you from the United States and from around the world, and just thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again.